An event that science fiction author H.G. Wells described in 1914 resulted in many changes. It resulted in transforming the world's overall psychological mindset. It initiated international advancements in science. Last, it ultimately altered the course of history. This significant event held roots years before July 1945, thousands of miles away. For years prior to the outbreak of World War II, tensions were high in Europe, stemming from nationalistic endeavors, unresolved issues, and resentments spilling over from World War I. Adolf Hitler, a decorated veteran from World War I and Chancellor of Europe in 1933, aimed to establish the new order of politics, the Nazi Party. He wanted to impose Nazi rule on Europe and eventually the entire world. Hitler's authoritarian leadership and anti-Semitic policies were viewed as inhumane and a threat to the free world.
Lebe die nationalsozialistische Bewegung! Es lebe Deutschland!
The belief was that Hitler was well along in developing an atomic weapon, and that's what our intelligence told us. Our leaders felt that he would not hesitate to use it.
Albert Einstein, a world-renowned physicist noted for his theory of special relativity, had a significant role in the United States' decision to develop the atomic bomb. Scientists Leo Szilard, Eugene Wigner, and Edward Teller approached Einstein with concerns that the Germans might be building an atomic bomb. After all, these scientists, many who were European immigrants and refugees, knew Germany had the knowledge and scientific talent to do so. They feared that if Germany succeeded in the development of the atomic bomb, it would give them enormous power to continue to threaten Europe and the entire world with the spread of fascism. In August 1939, Albert Einstein agreed to sign a letter written by Szilard that told that Germany had access to uranium mines and warned of the possibility of an atomic bomb. He urged President Roosevelt to initiate a program to build a nuclear weapon. Roosevelt greatly admired Einstein and his work, and responded by setting up an investigation and using uranium in defense. This helped set in motion the creation of a top-secret military program named the Manhattan Military Engineering District, also known as the Manhattan Project. Among the mountains of Los Alamos, New Mexico, 800 acres of land was chosen as a site to carry out the Manhattan Project, the highly secretive atomic weapons laboratory. The Manhattan Project was officially established on August 13, 1942. The project was enormous, with a team of the world's best physicists to design and create a weapon that would harness the energy of the atom and utilize nuclear fission. J. Robert Oppenheimer, physicist at the University of California, Berkeley, was appointed the scientific director of the Manhattan Project. Oppenheimer was known at the time for his work in nuclear physics and quantum field theory. The great diligence and many tedious years of work produced scientific breakthroughs in the splitting of the nucleus of the atom to develop the first atomic weapon known to mankind. The cooperative effort at Los Alamos resulted in the first nuclear explosion on Earth, July 16, 1945, which Oppenheimer named Trinity. Oppenheimer's role in the Manhattan Project led to him being known as the father of the atomic bomb. The premise behind the development of the atomic bomb was to use in defense against Hitler and Nazi Germany to end World War II. However, a series of events that occurred during the Battle of Berlin, which included the suicide of their once ruthless leader, led to the surrender of Germany May 7, 1945. This was just a mere 2 months prior to the Trinity test in the United States. Although Germany surrendered, the war in the Pacific raged on. Japan refused to give up the fight even after several firebombings to many of their cities, including the capital city, Tokyo. War casualties in thousands continued despite the United States' attempts to get Japan to surrender. President Truman was confronted with a decision that would change the outcome of the war and alter the course of history for all mankind. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped the first atomic bomb, called Little Boy, on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. With the absence of a response from Japan, Nagasaki would suffer a similar demise 3 days later. The direct effects of the bombings were catastrophic. Both cities were completely leveled, and the estimation of casualties varied, but it has been suggested that over 100,000 people died instantly when the bomb exploded, or died later of their injuries. Many survivors were horribly disfigured, and it was feared that thousands of more deaths would come because of radiation exposure. World War II officially ended September 2, 1945, as the Japanese signed the Unconditional Surrender Agreement. The Manhattan Project, a mission to end the war through the use of the atomic bombs, reached its goal. The shock of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was felt worldwide and triggered several byproducts that persisted for decades. There were rapid advancements in science from the start of the nuclear arms race due to the Soviet Union having a fully functioning nuclear warhead by 1949. Both nations continued to develop nuclear weapons, including intercontinental ballistic missiles. Scientific advancements continue with the interest of the space exploration and the developments of satellites. This triggered the space race between the two superpowers, the Soviet Union and the United States. Another byproduct was the constant fear that plagued every man, woman, and child for many generations in the future. The fear of nuclear attack and human annihilation had become an intricate part of daily life. A culture of fear emerged as Americans not only realized that humans possessed the ability to destroy the world, but that communist Russia had detonated their first atomic bomb. Many Americans did not trust communists and feared an impending atomic attack. The fear of communism, global nuclear war, and the possible horrible after effects of radiation from the fallout pervaded homes, schools, and the mass media. American families had fallout shelters equipped with supplies in case of atomic attack. Schools had regular bomb drills to prepare students, and stories of propaganda and atomic attack proliferated film, television, and forms of literature. This was the Cold War era.
The Cold War began, I would say, in 1946 and would last more than 50 years. There was mutual suspicion on both sides, and the immediate fear was if the Soviets can send a satellite into space, could they perhaps have atomic weapons on the satellite that would threaten the United States and other countries. We have lingering fears today about what's called nuclear proliferation. We are afraid that North Korea, Iran, might develop atomic weapons, which they could then use against their enemies.
The scientific developments that took place at Los Alamos more than 65 years ago was without a doubt the most influential and life-changing event to ever unfold in history. It was an event that brought together the most brilliant minds to design and create the ultimate weapon that only exists in theory. It created the most destructive force ever unleashed by mankind to end the most deadliest war, yet consequently sending the world into the atomic age, where fear knows no bounds.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. I suppose we all thought that, one way or another.
Reassuringly, nuclear weapons have never been used again as weapons of war, and hopefully, never will.